In this video, we're going to build a loan amortization table.
Off camera, I went ahead and set this up. So what you're going to want to do now is just hit pause and enter the information that I have so far. And after you have that entered, you can pick up with the explanation. So what we're trying to accomplish here is we're creating an amortization table or an amortization schedule. And this is a pretty common tool. You see this when you're applying for a home loan, for example, and you're borrowing money to buy a house. The basic idea is that when we're done, we're going to be able to see all of the payments that we're going to make on this loan during the term of the loan, the 30-year time period that we're going to have this loan. And we're going to be able to see how much of that payment every month is going to be directed towards paying interest on the loan and how much is it going to be directed towards the principal or paying down on the debt. And at the end of every period, we'll have an ending balance so we can kind of keep a running tab and get an idea of how much we have left to pay down on this particular loan. In this example, I'm using a home mortgage. You could use any loan that you wanted, really. It works just the same. So our starting balance is going to be equal to our $250,000. And as always, don't type in $250,000. Type an equal sign and point to our $250,000 starting point on the loan. Now, the asset that you purchased probably cost more than $250,000. You've made a down payment. Or maybe there's sales tax that you've had to pay. There's tons of other expenses that go into it. We're just going to be focusing on the amount of money that you borrow. In this case, it's going to be $250,000. That's our starting payment, or starting balance. Now we're going to use a little function in Microsoft Excel to calculate the payment on this loan. We type an equal sign and then PMT and open parentheses, and that'll give us the information we need for the payment function. The first thing that the spreadsheet is going to ask us for is the rate. And what you have to remember, this rate is not our 4% annual rate. It's going to be our monthly rate, which is our 4% annual rate divided by the number of periods in the year, in this case 12. Before we move on, so that we can drag things down later on, we're just going to go ahead and hit F4 right here and move the cursor in front of the B5, which is the periods per year, and hit an F4. And that's going to give us the absolute cell reference, so that we're always going to be pointing towards cell B3 and B5, where our interest rate and the number of periods in our year, our months, are hiding at. We're going to type a comma and enter the number of periods. So that's 30 years in cell B4 multiplied by 12 months per year in cell B5. Once again, we need to hit F4 in front of the B4, move the cursor in front of the B5, and hit F4 again. And when we do that, we get these dollar signs, which gives us our absolute cell references, and we type a comma. Let me undo that and move over one and type the comma. Now the formula is going to be asking us for the present value. In this case, the present value is the amount of money that we are borrowing. So for that, we're going to be clicking on our loan amount of $250,000. And again, we're going to hit F4. Don't have to move the cursor. We can just hit F4, and we're all set. So, the amount of money we're dealing with is $250,000. Now, the next two options, or two arguments of this option, the future value and the type, both of these are optional arguments, and we don't need them to calculate the monthly payment. So we're going to type a closing parentheses and hit enter, and we find that our payment is $1,193.54 per month. Now it's red and it's got parentheses around it, and that's a way of indicating that this is a negative number. Some people don't like leaving negative numbers in their spreadsheet. I'm going to leave it negative because this is a cash flow concept. This is $1,193 that have to leave your checking account and go towards paying off this loan. So I'm just going to leave it how it is for now. I might change it later if I decide that I need to for the setup of my spreadsheet. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and change that because negative numbers make people uncomfortable. So I'm just going to put a negative sign in front of the payment argument, and I'm done. Now the interest. Now the interest is the amount of money you're paying on interest on the outstanding balance. So if our starting balance is $250,000 and I'm paying 1/12 of 4% during this first month, I just have to simply calculate simple interest on that $250,000. So that's an equal sign. And then I'm going to click on the $250,000, and I'm going to multiply that by, open parentheses, my 4% annual rate divided by my 12 months. And as before, we need an F4 in front of the B3, so we have dollar signs, and then move your cursor in front of the B5 and hit F4 again to get those two dollar signs, a dollar sign in front of the B and the 5. And then we're just going to close our parentheses. Now the E4, we don't need to make an absolute cell reference. There's no need to do that because we're going to be dragging this formula down later, and it'll work itself out just fine. We're using the absolute cell references on cell B3 and cell B5 because we're pointing off to this table off to the side that I'm indicating. I'm going to hit enter, and I should get an answer. So this first payment I make in the first month of my loan, 833 of those, almost $1,200, that's interest. So I'm paying quite a bit of interest in the first month. Now the principal is the difference between the interest and the payment. So I'm going to move to the principal column. That's column H. I'm in cell H4. I'm going to type an equal sign. This tells Excel I'm going to be entering an equation. I click on the payment, and then I click on a dash to subtract, and then I click on the interest, hiding in cell G4. And I press enter. And then what I find is, of that first payment, $360.20 are going towards paying down the actual loan. And I need to know that in order to find the ending balance. So I go to my ending balance column, column I. I'm in cell I4 right now. I type an equal sign. I click on the $250,000 starting balance, and I subtract the $360 principal, and I press enter. And well, now I'm well on my way. I just have to get the next row in the spreadsheet set up, and when I have that done, I can drag things down and I can be finished. So I'm going to look at period number 2. So in cell D5, I'm going to type a 2 and then go over a cell, and now I'm going to type an equal sign and click on the ending balance in the previous row, which is $249,000 and some change. And I press enter. Now I can copy the formulas in the payment, interest, principal, and ending balance columns. So I click on cell F4, I hold the mouse down, drag over to the right, let go of the mouse, then move the cursor to the lower right-hand corner of the highlighted area, click and drag down, and things should begin to work themselves out just fine. Now it's simply a matter of highlighting cells E through I in row 5, or columns E through I in row 5, moving my cursor to the lower right-hand corner, and just dragging this down until I get to 360 months, or 360 periods. Now the way I've got this set up, the period is not counting down properly. So I'm just going to change that formula so that it can count down. And I've done this in previous videos, so you've probably seen me do this before. Now it's going to be quite easy for me just to drag down. So what you can kind of see here is at the end of the 12th month, after I've been paying on this loan for a year, I've paid off about $4,000 of this loan at the end of the 12th month, about $4,300 it looks like. And what you're going to notice is the principal portion keeps getting a little bit larger, and the interest portion keeps getting a little bit smaller, but the payment is exactly the same. And now I'm just going to highlight everything and drag all the way down until I'm to the 360th month, and I can see at what point my mortgage pays off. And there we go, I'm done. And in the very last month, I have $1,189 an outstanding balance. I'm making a $1,193 payment. $3.97 of that goes towards paying for the interest on my outstanding balance, and the rest goes towards the principal. And I end up with exactly zero. Not exactly zero. There's some rounding error there, but I end up with zero outstanding balance 360 months from now. And that is how you create your own amortization table in Microsoft Excel.
Don't forget to hit that like button, and as always, if you've got a better way of doing this, show us in the comments.